Hi, this is Cal Ripken Jr., and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter back with you all over the major platforms. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. We are brought to you by Axe Exotic Pets, Welch & Company Jewelers, Stanley Law Offices, and Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual, New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning with Brian Comboy. He has clients all over the country. Go with Brian today. We are super pumped up with our financial future thanks to Brian Comboy on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and of course, advisors.massmutual.com. Tip of the cap, thank you as well to the Swan and Whitaker families for their support of the platform, as well as Liverpool Physical Therapy and Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare. Well, my next guest is one of the most accomplished NFL writers and personalities that we have out there. He's been doing it forever. He's the co-host of SiriusXM NFL on Channel 88. He's a Bills and NFL contributor for WGRZ, a New York Times best-selling author, a Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, and we're having him on to promote a little of the Josh Allen Built for Buffalo book, which is out all over major bookstores and online where books are sold. You can get him on Twitter at Vic Carucci and WGRZ.com for some of his work, as well as listening on Sirius XM NFL Channel 88. Vic Carucci, this is tremendous to have you, man. You know how much I respect you, and met you obviously years back when I was interning in Buffalo. Welcome aboard, and congrats on this great little project here, the Josh Allen Built for Buffalo book. How are you, my man?
I'm great, and Mike, it's so great to see how far you've come since then. I'm always interested in career paths, and you get an opportunity to meet a lot of young people who get into the business, and I've been blessed through the years to work with some people, a lot of folks who've been very attached and involved and wanting to grow and make it happen in this business. And it always reminds me, this is where you start. And I have those same memories as a young guy. It's a little harder for me to remember because I'm so old, but I appreciate the path that you and others have traveled.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and there's nobody better than you, trust me. I've been following you forever. I told a bunch of my buddies who are diehard Bills fans that you were coming on, and they were losing their minds. They couldn't wait to hear the interview. I'm having you on. We'll talk a little bit of Bills as we record this. We have Monday Night Football tonight with the Bills-Titans. I'll get a game preview from you there here shortly. But this Josh Allen Built for Buffalo compilation by the Buffalo News, you and Jay Skursky, Tim Graham, and a host of others in this thing. This is awesome stuff. First question, why is Josh Allen, do you think, built for Buffalo?
Well, I think we could start first with the physical portion of this discussion, and that is 6'5", 237, the rough size listing for him. I know it can fluctuate, but that's what's on the roster. And the strength that goes into that physical makeup of his, the body type, I think are perfect for a team that plays its games in an environment, for its home games and home road games, and in the game of football, where you can get into a season, whether it's at home or on the road, in those latter parts, you get into November, December, and when it is that clutch time, when you've got to be at your best and close it out if you're trying to win your division or make a playoff spot in any way, to have that power to throw through the wind, to function in the cold and windy environment that you get. That's not a trivial point. It applied to Jim Kelly when the Bills brought that Hall of Famer aboard, and I was there from day one of his career with the Bills, and saw it firsthand and could see it with Josh. It doesn't end there, of course. There has to be more than arm strength to be successful as a quarterback, as we all know. And Josh also has that. It was something that had to develop more from a coaching standpoint as a pro. He was very raw coming out of Wyoming. We know that story. And I think that there were challenges he faced early on, largely because he didn't have a truly refined he didn't have any refinement as a thrower from his high school to college to early pro teaching. Once he got to the pros, I think he had some development, and then coaching changes along the way for the Bills, bringing in Brian Daboll, bringing in Ken Dorsey, had a lot to bring that out. The other part of that's the physical side of it. The mental side, the emotional side, is how much I think he fits. Coming from a very rural upbringing in Northern California, Fireball, California, farm raised, if you will, and the grounded surrounding that he had from his family, his dad, a huge influence on that. I think put him in the right frame of mind to come into a market that embraces a team in different ways than the larger markets do. And even if you're the biggest fish in the pond, which he is, which Jim Kelly was, others who played here, the Hall of Famers, Thurman Thomas, there is a point where that player recognizes almost universally, if you go through each of these cases, the connection that the town, the people of the community itself has with the players on the Bills and what the Bills mean to them. It's more than just this is a professional team, they're paid to do a job, etc. It's long been a case where they become part of the community and they recognize it. And even those who move on and leave the area still have that huge place in their heart for Buffalo. And I've had this conversation with any number of former Bills players who played for different teams after they left and still feel that strong connection to Western New York. I use just Drew Bledsoe as an example. Had many long talks with him. Obviously, his best years were as a New England Patriot, but his memories of Buffalo, and then he would go on to be with Dallas after, but his memories of Buffalo were so prominent and so heartfelt. And you understood that. You understood what it truly meant to him to be a Buffalo Bill. And again, we can use other examples, but I think Josh's recognition of that and how much, and then the support he was given by the donators to Oshai Children's Hospital after his grandma passed, because he gave that very heartfelt story about what she meant to him and her passing right before that Seattle game. So I think last year, I think all of that has comes together physically, emotionally, to make him the right fit for the Buffalo community.
Give me the craziest story along the way. A lot of these articles you've obviously written, you mentioned Fireball, California. Wyoming was the only school to go visit that town and believed in Josh Allen. Give me some of the crazy behind the scenes story on, in terms of his journey, Vic, to be star quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
All right, before I answer that, tell me about the dog.
Yeah,
what kind is it? And what's
I knew you were going to go there. He hasn't barked all day.
Okay. I love dogs, so I need to know the dog, the breed, and I need to know the name.
I do remember that you love dogs. He is a golden retriever. His name is Cooper, and he will be 6 years old, I think, this February. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he gets a treat on Uncle Vic.
Oh, he's already had a couple, Vic. He doesn't need any more. Jeez,
All right. So seriously, to answer your question, I think I don't know about crazy story, Mike, but I would say this. Well, I got a couple stories. Okay, and I know they're in the book, which yes. Triumph Publishing and working with the news put together such a great, a great piece to collection, and I think picked out the right stories that tell us a lot about Josh. But here are my two best recollections in a sit-down interview with him that I had, where I felt like I was able to get some, because you never know with these sit-downs, you'll get a superficial thing, and I never will say, I know this person thoroughly from anything, because these encounters don't allow you to do that. You don't really get to know someone with 15 minutes or 20 minutes or even an hour. It's just, that's what it is. But you do your best. Anyway, he told two things. He told a story as a kid when he was going to a San Francisco Giants baseball game. And there was a Giants player, I'm thinking it was a pitcher, but I'm not sure. He didn't identify him, whose autograph he sought, and the guy blew him off. The guy big time, and that stuck with him. I know he's told that story in other places, but he told it to me in this interview, and you can see in his eyes that it was still something that, it bothered him or influenced him many years later. The influence part is, I'm not going to be that guy. When I get the opportunity, as a kid, he made that conscious decision, and it stuck with him, which is a great thing. That's that grounding point that I mentioned, that I think his family had plenty to do with. Now let's add to that with his dad. He told a story about his dad driving him to school when he was younger, and he was playing ball at that point. And so on the drive from their home to Firebaugh, to the school of Firebaugh, California, he said his father would usually have have his left, hand on the wheel, and I guess his left hand on the wheel, his right hand is an air microphone, interviewing young Josh the way he would be interviewed after a game. And what the point of that interview was to have Josh answer questions about how well he played, but how conditioning him to understand that it wasn't just about him. And he would encourage, when he give answers, he wanted less of I and me and more of we and us. And I think that stuck. I'm positive that stuck with him too, because that really is the Josh Allen that you hear show up in these interviews all these years later.
Bills Titans Monday Night Football. What do you expect?
I expect certainly a close, competitive game. I sense it will be probably more competitive than what we saw last Sunday night early on, as kind of these teams feel each other out. My score prediction has the Bills winning pretty comfortably. I think something like a 33-21 final, something like that. So it's a game, but I had thought it was going to be a 3-point win against the Chiefs, and I was way wrong on that, as were others, and many others who thought the Chiefs were the right team. Now, it's so fascinating that these are back-to-back games this year, because we know it was in inverted order, but it was Tennessee, and because of the change with the COVID scheduling change, the Bills ending up playing back-to-back primetime games with Titans and Chiefs last year. And when we looked at the schedule, I'm guessing you did the same thing, Mike. I think the feeling was that if they split these games, this will be a really good thing for the Bills. And I was among those who thought that as well. Yep. But I'm of a mind now to think the Bills are playing at a different level than all the teams on their schedule. I vote for the weekly Associated Press media panel that votes for the a bunch of things, but in season it's the power rankings, the top 32. And I was one of 6 people who voted the Bills to be in first place. And Arizona got 6 votes as well, so they're tied for first and week. Now, for whatever that's worth, it's worth. I think I call it for maybe entertainment purposes only. You look at it, yeah, it's interesting, but it is interesting that enough people feel that way about the Bills with 1 loss and the Cardinals 5-0. But I think what gives the Bills the credibility is that win against the Chiefs. And now they can enhance that. And why do I think they can beat the Titans? I think their defense equips them to handle whatever the Titans can throw their way, which wasn't the case last year, but I do think is the case this year. And I think a lot of it is obviously up front, what they can do with Greg Rousseau, the addition there, the speed, the athleticism, the strength. Having Star Lotulelei back in the middle after he opted out last year, huge. And I think all of that, plus the way the defense is playing in general, they're on a mission. I mean, and I'm talking about the defense more than I'm talking about Josh and the offense. But I also think, and obviously Josh had a great game, one of the two sort of 2020 version of Josh Allen games that he's had this year so far. The other was against Washington. So does he need to be that guy game in and game out? He wasn't. He was last year, and that was the biggest reason they were 13-3. I think it's different this year, and teams are certainly more acutely working on defending him and trying to neutralize what he does and what the receivers do. It's hard. To me, it's impossible with all the targets he has and all the ability he has to find them. And Brian Daboll's play calling, and I think there's a running game in there that's significant enough. Dawson Knox is a difference maker, more so. But what I see from this offense is a compliment. I think they complement the best part of the team, which right now is that dominant defense.
Everybody on this team buys in. They buy into McDermott. They buy into Beane. They buy into, that word culture gets thrown around a lot. Every guy has the same mission, the same goal. You don't hear a peep out of Stefon Diggs, like you did in Minnesota. You hear praising other guys and sharing the rock, and there's one ball, but we'll all get ours. And, the McBean, they've believed in guys like Taron Johnson. They've hung in with Dawson Knox. They've hung in with all these players. Saran Neal, Levi Wallace, the list goes on and on. And they're all together. How big is that, do you think, that all of these guys have the exact same thought? I mean, the 53-man roster, they're all tied and joined at the hip in this mission, Vic.
Yeah, Mike, this is Sean McDermott, and let's credit Brandon Beane as well for the types of players brought in, but the profile of what Sean McDermott wants in that locker room, wants on the field, the mindset of team first and brotherhood and all of those things. Now, let's throw in the qualifier. It's a lot easier to be unified and tight and not complaining when you're winning, when you're having success. If it's going the other way, that does bring out other emotions. These are human beings. That happens. But so the success, though, that is happening reinforces the mentality that Sean McDermott is stressing. But I think it's also easier to have buy-in when you bring aboard players who are prone to buy in to it, and that's where Brandon Beane and Scott step.
Well, look, I got one more for you in the minute that I have left. When Bills fans and football fans pick up Josh Allen Built for Buffalo by the Buffalo News with this great compilation of articles that you and a host of other great writers have put together, what do you hope they say about this when they get done reading it?
Yeah, and let me also throw this in. I'm retired from the Buffalo News.
Yep.
I made that, and I know you know that, but I just want to put that out there as a note here that as of August 1st, I've actually not worked for the News. I've been thinking for a couple of years to step into the retirement role. They tried to talk me out of it, and I give Mike Conley, the editor-in-chief, a lot of credit. He and I had a bunch of, he made at first a phone call, then we had a bunch of follow-up conversations, and he was trying to work out something where, can you stay for one more year? Because we think this is going to be a big year for the Bills. And I said, look, I appreciate that. Really talked this through with my family for a long time. We put a lot of thought into it, and it really wasn't set up for me to be talked out of anything. We knew this was the right thing, and it is. And I'm still involved. Channel 2 in Buffalo, the NBC affiliate, I contribute to them on air and on their website, and I do Sirius XM NFL Radio. I've been with them since 2004, so there's a lot of involvement that I still have with covering the Bills and covering the NFL. But that said, when they knew what I wanted to also mention is, even after they knew I was retiring, they asked me to write the introduction to the book. So that was obviously an honor. And I reminded them, I said, this is going to come out after I'm retired. And they said, because I was still employed by them when they asked, but I had already put in my retirement paper, so to speak. And they said, no, we know that, but we want you to do it. We think this is the right, you can make it. And the whole point was, have the Bills found their next Jim Kelly, who we started out discussing here? And I said, sure, happy to do it. So here's what I hope they take away, that there is somebody special at quarterback. It's been a long time coming. Does the story of Josh Allen through 5 weeks of the NFL season, his career, the 2020 season, and 5 weeks, does it assure that we're seeing greatness, Hall of Fame greatness like Kelly, the rest of the way? Of course not. And could we end up being premature with all of this? Yep, we could. That's life. That's sports. That's football. That's everything. But all of that said, I think that people will get a feel for the guy who is the face of this team right now, and appreciate what he does. Not only what he has done, but what he does and how he does it. And you're going to be, fans are going to be critical when things go sideways. But that's okay. That's what you're entitled to do. But I think whatever you do in praising and the opposite of whatever the praising is, second guessing, I guess, you do it with a better understanding of the guy. And I think all the work that's in that book by our combined forces of our staff, my former staff, paint that picture. And I think it'll be an enjoyable read.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's amazing. I'm almost done with it. Go get it all over major bookstores and online where books are sold. The Buffalo News' compilation of some articles. Josh Allen, Built for Buffalo. Vic Carucci, best in the business. Co-host Sirius XM NFL Channel 88. Contributor for the NFL and Bills for WGRZ. And of course, Vic, you have a book coming out with Bill Polian. Tell my listeners about that.
Coming out in next month, toward the end of November. It actually got delayed a little bit because of all the unfortunately, the delivery and shipping issues that are going on in our country now or in our world. But Bill and I did a second book, and it's called Super Bowl Blueprints. Triumph is the publisher, same one that did this Josh Allen book and the first Polian book you referenced. That we did that back in 2014. But Bill and I got together with 32 people we interviewed collectively, and mostly Hall of Famers. And it's a look at all these iconic eras of the past. I mean, the spoiler alert, there's not a Patriots chapter in there. You could have a volume, we know, of Patriot books for all their dynastic work. But the Raider dynasties, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Washington team when it was known as the Washington Redskins with Joe Gibbs, and on and on. We've got New York Giants. So you've got all these voices, and it's an oral history form. So spoke with all these folks, Steve Young to talk about the 49ers era and bring to life Bill Walsh, Mike Holmgren's part of that. We talked to Bill Parcells. We talked to Terry Bradshaw and Mel Blunt and B. Joe Green, and had about 2 hours each with all of these people, Joe Gibbs, and even more. I think Gibbs talked with us for about 3 hours. And it's phenomenal stuff. We did most of them on Zoom calls during the 2020 years of staying in homes. Bill and I, Bill in North Carolina, and myself in Buffalo, and it was really an enlightening project. So excited. Bill is like the lead-in voice, and then the other one we weave in everything else in, as I say, in oral history format. It's about nearly 400 pages, so it's a lot of reading. Take your time, but. We think it's going to be enjoyable. It'll be downloadable on Kindle this month, and as I said, and then you can go to Amazon, wherever books are sold, and then you can get the hard copy next month. And pre-orders are available on Amazon. So just wanted to tell you. Amazing
stuff. Super Bowl Blueprints. Hall of Famers reveal the keys to football's greatest dynasties. Bill Polian with Vic Carucci, and again, go grab Josh Allen, Built for Buffalo. By the Buffalo News and those great writers, including Vic Carucci. Get him all over the place. Sirius XM NFL, WGRZ, Pro Football Hall of Famer, a New York Times best-selling author, on Twitter at Vic Carucci. Vic, this was amazing. I'd love to have you back, and continued success.
Mike, thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
The ML Sports Platter brought to you by our great friends at Welch & Company Jewelers. Shop the showcase today at welchjewelers.com. That's welchjewelers.com. A big-time thank you as well to the Syracuse Fitness Store and our pals over at Stanley Law Offices together, they'll work to get you the maximum award. Well, we go from one amazing guest in Vic Carucci to another guy who has just really, really risen as one of the great entrepreneurs right now in sports and entertainment. He is the president and CEO of PLB Sports and Entertainment, doing an unbelievable job, obviously promoting a lot of the different products like the wing sauces with Stefon Diggs and some things with Josh Allen. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty, the creation of the company, how it all came to fruition, Ty's background. We're going to talk some Bills. We're going to talk some Josh Allen and a heck of a lot more, and get into the future of this great group as well at PLB Sports and Entertainment. Ty Ballou, welcome aboard, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this.
Well, I really appreciate that.
Let's
go Bills.
Go Bills indeed. Let's start with PLB Sports and Entertainment's rise. How did it all come to fruition? When did it really take off?
Well, my sports background started about 30 years ago, which really dates me as an old man. I was actually in the candy business here in Pittsburgh, and I did some work with the Penguins back in the early 90s, actually with a team, and then launched a product with Mario Lemieux, which was a Lemieux candy bar. In 93, was lucky enough to bring back the Reggie candy bar for Reggie Jackson when he went in the Hall of Fame, and then started my own business in the early 90s in sports marketing. Worked locally, again, back in hockey with Penguins legend here, which was Jaromir Jagr, did the Jaromir Jagr peanut butter. Went over to Cleveland when the Indians were really tearing things up in the mid-90s with Omar Vizquel and Sandy Alomar. And then I can tell you my passion and love, and truly for people in Western and upstate New York, is immense. Came up with the idea for Flutie Flakes back in 98, which, believe it or not, is 23 years ago.
Wow.
Launched that with Tops and Wegmans. Really had very modest expectations. If we can circle back to 98, the Bills were not very good that year. They had two new quarterbacks in Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie. Doug was, I think, signed first, was going to be awarded the starting job, and Mr. Wilson and the team hired or signed Rob out of Jacksonville, and the rest is after that. We have sold over 3 million boxes of Flutie Flakes. It's been unbelievable. Not all in upstate New York and Western New York. I always said Doug had great baggage, so we sold hundreds of thousands in New England, where he grew up. We did a box exclusively for Canada, where he is a legend. Went out to San Diego when he went with the Chargers. We did a supercharged version, and then have done a 10th anniversary and a 20th anniversary box. So everything really kind of started and blew up in the late 90s with Doug Flutie and the Bills fans and
no
Bills
doubt.
Mafia.
No doubt. And I remember I was in college during that time at St. Bonaventure, and we would go up and watch the Bills, obviously, on the campus activity board trips, and where you a Johnson guy, a Flutie guy, etc. And then this cereal comes out, man, and I mean, we were on campus, we were going to the stores getting it, and we were eating it. All my buddies, all my Bills buddies, we were getting it. We were eating it on the weekends before kickoff. I mean, we were eating Flutie Flakes like crazy. I mean, was that your first real holy shit moment about Bills Mafia? Like, this is a crazy fan base here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the fan base, and I say this in all respect, there is, and I've said it to Wall Street Journal, to ESPN, there is no better fan base. And I work in all major markets with fan bases such as Green Bay. We're based in Pittsburgh, Steeler fans. I've worked down in Dallas. I grew up in Chicago, did things in Chicago. And there is no greater fan base than the Bills. Absolutely, Bills Mafia. And for the size of the market and for the passion and whatever, you put the word in there too, craziness, insanity. I figured it out when I went to my first Bills game, and the RV parking lots were full on Thursday for a Sunday afternoon game.
Yep.
Like, people were tailgating 3 to 3.5 days before, like, oh, this is a place where I want to do marketing. So I didn't know it was that good. I mean, I met Doug for the first time up at Fredonia State. I think it's sunny. That's where we did the photo shoot for the cereal box. And I thought, well, this is going to be good. It's going to be modest. Our initial projection was 10,000 boxes, and we're over 3 million, and still selling his merch and cereal online. And Wegmans, a year and a half ago, actually bought a truckload of product in and blew that out. So, and if I could just add one more thing, I was with Doug. I think it was in early 2000, and they brought some of the more high-profile Bills players back to Orchard Park. They had them in the field house, and they've had Berman. I think Jim was there, and I talked to the Bills media people. Without question, the biggest line and the most people that turned out were for Doug Flutie when he came back. And as you know, I think he played there 2, maybe 3 years before he went on to San Diego. So it's Bills fans, and God bless them this year for what Josh and the whole team is doing up there. I couldn't be more happy.
Yeah, and now look, I mean, you've got Josh's Jacks, you've got the wing sauce with Stefon Diggs, right? I mean, these two guys, Allen and Diggs, they're like brothers from another mother, man. These guys love each other. Allen turned into a superstar last year with the acquisition of Diggs. Allen has also done a lot on his part to improve. Now this team, they just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. We got the Titans coming up here on Monday night. That's a great game ahead.
Right.
What these two guys here, Allen and Diggs, two-part question. What has it been like working with these guys? And do they talk about the other one when you're if you talk to Allen, does he talk a lot about Stefon and vice versa? Do they talk about each other a lot with you?
Yeah. First of all, working with them is been an absolute joy. Started working with Josh last year in 2020 with the first box. Sold over 150,000 boxes of cereal, both in upstate New York, Western New York, and online. And the thing which was amazing, as you know, what the fans did when Josh's grandmother passed away, and the money that they donated to Oshai Hospital, and Josh also donated a portion to the hospital as well, was just utterly amazing. So we wanted to add to the roster, and we have never had 2 players on one team in one market, because it just doesn't. We worked with Patrick Mahomes. It was unbelievable. We did program in 19 and 20 with him. But the thought of maybe putting someone like Travis Kelce and other players, like, well, there's too much. But Buffalo is an outlier of outliers. So adding Stefon to our roster with Josh made all the sense in the world. Huge hot sauce guy. He does like ranch, but we convinced him that blue cheese is the go-to for wings up there. We are the #1 hot sauce company brand in upstate and Western New York in 5 weeks. It's just utterly amazing. Number 2 in blue cheese. I guess there's a blue cheese product up there. Rudy's is a local brand, which goes to the group. But I'm happy to be number 2 in blue cheese and #1 in hot sauce. And yes, they talk to each other. I have not been with them together. I've been with them independently. But I think everything you see is sincere. I think they truly love one another. I mean, Stefon going from Minnesota to the Bills was a gift. I think it's what Josh and the team needed. Certainly, it's what Stefon kind of really needed to kind of relight his very, very good career. So it's fun just to watch those two. And looking at this year, you would say that Stefon isn't quite having the year this year that he had last year. But I'll just say this as a fan of both of them. When you're double teamed all the time, Max, Sanders, others are wide open. So, and that's the thing that I love about Stefon Diggs. He's not complaining. Maybe he's not getting 10 catches a game. It's all about winning. It's all about, getting out to LA in February. So it's just been great to watch. I'm in Pittsburgh here. I still don't know how the Steelers beat this team. So can you explain to me how in the world they lost that first game? Because I do think they're one of the top 2 teams in all of football right now.
Well, I think it's the NFL. I think it's you can any given Sunday, but I think more than that, so many eggs were placed in that basket for that opener. I mean, the expectations, the hype, all the endorsement stuff for Allen, his contract, Super Bowl picks. I mean, 3 out of the 5 guys on CBS Sports. Adam Shine has, Mike Tirico, former players, Bills to the Super Bowl, Bills winning the Super Bowl. All of that kind of going into it with the fans all the way back as well in that first home expectation type game against a really good defensive line. And they had a bad day. And I just think that happens in the NFL. I think that there was a lot going into that. You know, the bullseye is now on the Bills' back. It's amazing. It used to be, oh, we got to play these guys. Oh, we got to play them. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what pick are we going to be this year? Guess what? Now the Bills, they have to play the Bills.
Exactly. Well, what they did against the Chiefs, absolutely. I mean, no one's saying that was a fluke. That was like, that's how good that team is. And it's not to say, I'm with you too, it's not to say that the Bills might trip up. You never know. You're going to have one game. You know, going undefeated is near impossible. And I've always said, whether it's to you or any other people in the press, it's okay if they lose 3 or 4 games. Let's just win the division. Yeah. Let's just get out to LA. No one's gonna really care about the schedule or care about the wins and losses for 17 weeks if they're playing in February in Los Angeles, because that's what it's all about.
There's no doubt. Ty Ballou with us. A couple more for you, Ty, here. The president and CEO of PLB Sports and Entertainment, and you can check them out all over social media and plbse.com. Check out the charity, the gear, the bundles, all sorts of media attention, the athletes they work with, including Buffalo Bills superstars Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen. So where did you grow up? Where was high school and college and all that sort of thing? Where do you come from?
I grew up, born in Detroit, grew up western suburbs of Chicago. Okay. Went to high school out there, went to University of Wisconsin.
Wow.
Freshman year, graduated from Northern Illinois University. Just was a huge fan of the Chicago teams, the Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox fan over the Cubs. I was lucky enough to work with Anthony Rizzo in 2016 when the Cubs won their first World Series in 108 years. But always just a big sports fan. Lived in Denver for a while. Ran Jolly Rancher Candies from a marketing standpoint. Moved to Pittsburgh and then started the sports company. So, and great place to have a sports company here in Pittsburgh, obviously with the tradition between the Steelers, the Penguins, and the Pirates aren't very good this year, but the history with the Pirates. So this seemed to be a good landing place. But I love it here. Been out here in Pittsburgh for nearly 3 decades.
Okay, Allen, Diggs, Bills Mafia. You mentioned it, that there weren't a lot of people, doubting the Bills after that win over the Chiefs, but you can find them. You can find the doubters. You can find the anti-Allen people, because the narrative was with the Bills that they didn't beat anybody. They only beat backup quarterbacks, right? Then the defense dominates Patrick Mahomes' offense. Allen goes off, and now it's, the Chiefs aren't that good, right? It's always something with the Bills and Allen and these guys. So it leads me to this to this point, and then this question. I'm almost to the point where I think it's just going to keep going until they win it all. Because at that point, you can't say anything. You're the champion. I mean, what are you going to use at that point if you're anti-Allen, anti-Bills? And if they were to win a championship, whether it's this year or next or whenever, I ask you, Ty Ballou, what the hell happens to the city of Buffalo if the Bills ever won a Super Bowl?
Well, you know what I've said too when I've gone on the record. Everything. Sports is all about records. Probably baseball more stats than anything. But I do truly believe the record that always, not for Bills fans, but national media forgets, is for the Bills going 4 years in a row. You just don't go 4 years in a row to the Super Bowl. Granted, they lost. I know it's painful. There's ESPN stories. There's stories all over about Kelly and that whole team. But you know what? They went 4 years in a row. So I think there's going to be doubters because of I don't know what the right word is, the angst, the passion, the emotional scars of that team not winning one. And I think that's why my company has been so successful up there too, just because of, how much that city and that region loves that team. So to answer your second question, I don't know I'm just going to be there in Buffalo when they win, and they will win. I'm an older guy. I want to be there for the parade. I just want to stand in the crowd. I have no idea what it's going to be like it will be not a national story. Truly, it'll be international. I can't imagine how many hundreds of thousands of people will flood into Buffalo for that parade. I get chicken skin thinking about it, because it's if there is one city, if there's one franchise that deserves to win one, it's got to be the Buffalo Bills, only for their fans. And I think Josh, and not that Doug Flutie or Jim Kelly or anybody thought differently, but I think Josh and Stefon and Cole and Dawson and everyone completely, even though they're young, get it. I think that I think they understand what that would mean. So, God, I hope they do it. I really hope they do it this year.
Yeah, it's wild to think about what could happen, and you bring up a team that deserves it. I kind of look at it as a city and a market more than even just the team, because the Sabres have had all those failures. The Bills have had the 4 straight Super Bowls knocking on the door, don't have a championship. They had the drought, so many awful years. Some people point towards the Lions, and I'm like, yeah, but if you're a Detroit sports fan, you got all those cups with the Red Wings. Chances are you saw the Tigers at a high level within the last 15, 20 years. You got titles in your market. Buffalo doesn't have any titles. So in the minute that I have left with you, I wanted to ask you this. When people, use your products, Josh's Jacks, the Stefon Diggs hot sauce, the gear, whatever the case may be, when they find out about you and your products and your company, what do you hope they say about your company?
Well, I hope they like that we're marketing players within this incredible area of Western and upstate New York. I'd like to think that they like our products. What I've always said too in the last minute here is that if we didn't really make good cereal or hot sauce or blue cheese, we're the number 2 mustard company in Colorado with Ed McCaffrey, Christian's dad. So I like them to think that, hey, the stuff is good, maybe really good, and they like that we are putting high-profile players on it, and we're giving back, whether it's we're doing it together, whether it's Oshai, whether it's the Flutie Foundation, and for Stefon, whether it's the Western New York Women's Foundation, that, hey, they're putting money back in the region. That's what I'd like for them to think.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Ty Ballou, the president and CEO of PLB Sports and Entertainment, the creation of Flutie Flakes, all of the products are working with now, and the athletes, the Stefon Diggs hot sauce and the Josh Allen, Josh's Jack cereals is flying off the shelves all over Western and Central New York. Go to the website, plbse.com. Go pick up some of their products and go follow them on Twitter as well, at PLB Sports. Ty, this was incredible. Thank you so much. Would love to have you back on the show. Would love to meet you someday. And man, hopefully the next time we talk, the Bills will be in a really good position, my man.
I really appreciate the time. Go Bills, go Mafia. Let's get to LA. I'll talk to you soon.
ML Sports Platter is brought to you by our great friends at Stanley Law Offices, Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare, Brewerton Ace Hardware, and our good friends over at the Allen Angus Pub, home of the best darn Angus burger in town, before and after all the big events in Central New York, SU football, Syracuse Crunch games. You've got your concerts, of course, as well, shows, you name it. They've got an unbelievable array of menu items, burgers, wraps, salads, homemade French onion soup, and a heck of a lot more at the Allen Angus Pub. Go visit them on Harrison Street in downtown Syracuse and online at allenanguspub.com. Huge thanks to Vic Carucci and Ty Ballou. My goodness, great guests. I'm Mike Lindsley on Twitter at Mike L Sports, and keep leaving those 5-star reviews and feedback, and download and subscribe to this show, the ML Sports Platter. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.